Greetings. This is part 2 in our series on vitamins, and you won't be surprised to learn that part 2 means it's all about vitamin B. Now, most people think of vitamins as a neat A to Z list, or A to Z list, or in fact A to K list. But vitamin B is an odd one out. Although others have numbered sequences like D and K, B has got lots and lots of vitamins associated with it. So it's not a single substance at all, but a family. Originally, scientists believed that vitamin B was just one nutrient. Over time, they discovered it was actually a group of distinct water-soluble compounds that often appear together in foods and work together in the body. Now, rather than rename them entirely, they were simply numbered B1, B2, B3 and so on. And what links them isn't their structure necessarily, but their shared role, especially in energy metabolism and crucially blood production. As I've discussed in the other ones, vitamins are already a dustbin category. They don't really have any chemical sense, but they are characterised mostly, not even entirely, by the fact that they are essential chemicals that the body needs that your body can't make for itself. Except that's not even true with vitamin D. We'll get to that when we get to D. Now, the B vitamins are essential for making healthy red blood cells. Vitamins like B6, B9, which is folate, and B12 are directly involved in production of hemoglobin, which is the protein of red blood cells that carries oxygen around the body. I'm sure everyone knows that. If levels of these vitamins drop too low, hemoglobin production suffers. The result can be anemia, leading to fatigue, weakness, shortness of breath, and poor concentration. In the case of B12 or folate deficiency, red blood cells can become abnormally large and inefficient, a condition known as megaloblastic anemia. This is, however, quite rare. So how do you know you're getting enough? A balanced diet is usually enough to provide adequate amounts of vitamin B. Good sources include whole grains, eggs, dairy, leafy greens, legumes and meat. However, there are important exceptions, and vitamin B12 is found almost exclusively in animal products, which makes vegans, and to a lesser extent vegetarians, particularly vulnerable to problems. Now, for those on plant-based diets, fortified foods or supplements are not optional really, they are essential. So a word out to the vegans there. In terms of dosage, most people only need relatively small amounts, and more is not always better because vitamin Bs are water-soluble. Excess amounts are often just excreted, but that doesn't mean they're risk-free. High doses of certain B vitamins, especially B6, can lead to nerve damage over time. Supplements should be taken thoughtfully and not casually. So I did see a report just as I was researching that excessive B supplementation can increase risk of cancer in men. Unfortunately, I dove in, and I couldn't really find the original study from 2017, and it was actually quite minor. The extra doses were hugely high, but they followed 77,000 people over 10 years. And the actual margin, the relative risk margin was 21%. It sounds a lot, but it's not actually very much. But there may be something in it. Now, deficiency risks vary. Deficiencies on the other side of the spectrum. B12 deficiency, common in vegans, older adults and people with absorption issues, is one. So folate deficiency can occur with poor diet or increased need, such as pregnancy. Folate is very important in pregnancy. Now, vitamin B6 deficiency is less common but can affect hemoglobin production. Early signs of deficiency often include tiredness, pale skin, and reduced exercise tolerance, all linked to reduced oxygen transport in the blood. And I think if you want a watchword, think B, think blood. Think B for blood, because generally a lot of the B vitamins are mostly associated with things in and around the blood, like hemoglobin, dilation of blood vessels and so on. So key takeaway is simple. Vitamins, B vitamins, are not just about energy. They are fundamental to life at the cellular level, especially in keeping your blood healthy and oxygen flowing. Whether through diet or supplementation, maintaining adequate levels is essential, particularly if your diet excludes animal products. Now, what I want to do is just sort of narrow down a little bit more on each type of B vitamin. I don't want to go on and on because B vitamins is a huge subject. So let's quickly break down major B vitamins and what each one does, especially in relation to blood production and overall health. B1, that's called thiamine. You often see it on the back of cereal packets because, you know, the modern production absolutely takes all the goodness out of the grain and they have to put it all back in. Now, supports healthy metabolism and nerve function. It doesn't directly make red blood cells, but it helps cells use energy efficiently, including those in the bone marrow where blood cells are produced. So, yeah, it's still related to, you know, blood flow, circulation. B2 is riboflavin or riboflavin, and important for energy production and maintaining healthy red blood cells. Once again, low levels can contribute to anemia and fatigue. Now, B3 is quite an interesting one. It plays a central role in metabolism and DNA repair, and at high doses, niacin can cause a well-known niacin flush. Now, if you've ever taken a large niacin pill, you might notice your skin going red and you feel this kind of blush. I noticed this to my surprise because I wasn't expecting it when I took a niacin pill. Now, temporary redness and warmth of the skin due to blood vessel dilation. So it's actually dilating your capillaries. Interesting, niacin has also been studied for its potential to improve cholesterol levels and may have some protective role against atherosclerosis. Now, that's because of the dilation effect. Although high dose should only be done under sort of medical supervision due to the possible side effects. And there are people out there on the internet, on YouTube, recommended niacin, you know, to protect against everything from heart disease to atherosclerosis. I don't think it's well established in terms of studies, but that's something I'm going to delve into in a bit more deeply. Okay, you will notice there is no B4. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I think it's non-essential. No B4. B5, pantothenic acid. It's involved in making coenzyme A. Everyone's talking about coenzyme A. It's this ubiquitous enzyme that seems to appear everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Now, that seems to be essential for energy metabolism and synthesis of fatty acids. It has a more general role supporting rather than a direct effect on red blood cell production. But again, it all seems to focus back on the blood and the circulation. B6 is pyridoxine. It's crucial for hemoglobin synthesis. Without enough B6, the body cannot properly incorporate iron into hemoglobin, which can lead to a specific type of anemia. B7 is biotin. It supports metabolism of fats, carbohydrates and proteins. It's less directly involved in blood production, but still important for overall cellular health. Gosh, one that isn't directly involved in blood production. Folate, this is the interesting one for pregnant women. Essential for DNA synthesis and cell division, which is something that goes on during pregnancy. This is critical in the bone marrow, where red blood cells are rapidly produced. Deficiency leads to large, immature red blood cells, the hallmark a hallmark of megaloblastic anemia, as I mentioned above. And as I also mentioned above, if you're thinking of getting pregnant, start taking it now. B12 is cobalamin and works closely with folate in DNA synthesis and red blood cell formation. It is absolutely essential for proper red blood cell maturation. Deficiency can lead to anemia and also neurological symptoms. This is the vitamin most likely to be deficient in vegans, since it is found almost exclusively in animal-derived foods. There is a critical connection between B vitamins, red blood cells and HbA1c. Now, when B vitamin levels drop, especially B6, B9 and B12, so those little red blood cell production can slow down and become abnormal. Now, this can reduce the total number of healthy red blood cells and impair hemoglobin formation. Now, there's a subtle effect here that is absolutely important to take note of. Hemoglobin is a measure over a 3-month period of how much glucose is attached to hemoglobin over time, and it depends partly on how red blood cells, how long they live. So in some types of vitamin B deficiency, particularly B12 and folate, red blood cells may live longer or be turned over more slowly. So this extended lifespan can allow more glucose to accumulate on hemoglobin. So potentially it leads to a false positive HbA1c. So what that might mean is that because your red blood cells are living longer, because you're not making them as quickly, they have more chance to be damaged by glucose. Now, it might be that your glucose levels are perfectly healthy. Unfortunately, what it will look like to a doctor is that because your percentage of damaged hemoglobin is higher, it might indicate to him that you're on the road to type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes. So it's something to think about for vegans who get a diagnosis of pre-diabetes, whether they're actually even valid. So in certain cases, a vitamin deficiency could complicate the interpretation of diabetes screening results, as you can see. So, final thought, each B vitamin has a distinct role, but together they form a tightly connected system, especially when it comes to producing healthy blood. Deficiency, even one can disrupt the whole process, which is why a balanced intake or appropriate supplementation, particularly for plant-based diets, is so important. Now, I would think if you're going on the meat, fish and eggs route, you don't need to worry about vitamin B whatsoever, not at all, because the amounts you need are so tiny, and the amounts that you get from a meat meal, a simple meal of steak. So I think it's something like one moderate steak, like a 12-ounce, 14-ounce steak, would be equivalent to the B vitamins in a loaf of bread, an entire kilo loaf of bread, which is a big loaf. So whether you're getting your B vitamins from a full English breakfast or a carefully planned plant-based plate, message is simple: look after your bees and they'll look after your blood. Because when it comes to energy, oxygen and keeping everything ticking on nicely, it's really a case of to be or not to be. That is the question. And if the questioner is not to be, well, don't be surprised if your energy levels exit stage left. Stay balanced, stay nourished, and importantly, stay brilliant.